Hey y'all, I'm CQ and this is Spirit Gumbo, the podcast where we stir the spiritual pot with truth, spice, and sass. In today's episode, we're talking about surviving to thriving and why the language we use matters more than we think. We'll start with a gumbo bite, surviving the rat race. Then it's story time with CQ, out of survival into success. After that, we'll move into the main theme, breaking the survival script, followed by a tarot truth bomb, and close with a reflection on choice, awareness, and softening the language we live inside. So, grab your candle, sip your tea, and let's get into it. This ain't just talk. This is Spirit Gumbo with CQ. Alright, now here's your gumbo bite for today. Something short and spicy to stir into your soul. I know somatic awareness is a very hot topic right now, and I don't usually do hot topics. However, in this case, I want you to actually feel what I'm talking about. When I say the following phrases, notice where they land in your body. What shows up for you? Anxious, nervous, scared, angry. That part matters because as we move forward, I want you to have a reference point. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, caught in the rat race. We're all just rats in a cage. And one of those sayings actually has a back end that always stuck with me. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, Sammy, and I'm wearing milk-bone underwear. I know exactly how these words land in my body, and that's why I pay attention to language and how it quietly shapes the world we live in. We are constantly being bombarded with information and language that tells us we need certain things in order to be considered successful. Here's an easy example. We all have phones. Some of us have basic models, and some of us have the latest and greatest. And yet we're constantly being told that if we don't have the newest version, then somehow we're behind. Excuse me, some of us just want to be able to call for help in an emergency. Some of us don't actually want to carry a mini computer around with us at all times. And don't even get me started on the Apple versus Samsung dividing tactics. All of this is designed. Yes, I said designed. And for the record, I am fully wearing my tinfoil hat to create the idea that we can't get ahead because we're stuck in survival. Survival mode leaves no room for dreaming or imagining a better reality. And I'm not talking about some fantasy utopian world. I'm talking about a reality where we're thriving instead of surviving. So here's the question I want to leave you with. If we step out of the rat race, if we choose not to participate, is it even a race anymore? And who says we were required to run it in the first place? Now, take that with you and stir wisely. Story time with CQ, out of survival into success. I know I just joked about wearing a tinfoil hat, and some days, let me tell you, I wear it proudly. But I don't want you to think this episode is about conspiracy theories or rhetoric. It's not. What I do want to say is that I think some of what's happening on the world stage follows patterns. Whether that's intentional design or systemic momentum, I'm not here to argue agendas. Just to name an honest observation. No political agenda here, just noticing how things move. If, however, you were to ask me who I think is pulling the strings, well, Aliens. It's always aliens. Seriously, though, it's hard not to wonder about design when we're constantly being told that we're just surviving. So many people are struggling simply to maintain their basic needs, and when that's the case, there's no room left for wants. And that's why I keep coming back to this idea: language matters. I've been very honest in the past about my health issues and about how that's taken a toll on my family. I was already struggling before my surgeries, and then I had to take months off to recover. My business, which had just started to find its footing, suffered. And that's not coming from a pity party place. That's coming from a reality place, because it does take a toll. When we're dealing with things outside of our control, finances, health issues, circumstances we didn't choose, it puts us in survival mode. I, like many of you, also struggle from a mental place. Imposter syndrome, fear of success, fear of failure. All of these things can pull us straight into survival mode. So, what do? We take back control, not from a place of controlling, but from a grounded, reality-focused, goal-oriented place. When I opened my business, my focus was on how to get myself out there. And honestly, I find it frustrating that social media has become the cheapest and often the only way we're expected to market our businesses. But here we are. So I started doing TikToks. I started making YouTube videos. And before I knew it, I got caught up in the trap of letting views define my worth. I went into this mindset of I need to go viral so I know my business is successful. And yes, I know very few people actually go viral, but what we see online makes it feel like that's the only way to get ahead. To say I was struggling would be an understatement. One day, I was talking with a friend and explaining how unsuccessful I felt, and she asked me a simple question. How do you define success? I immediately replied with numbers, how many views I needed, how much money I needed to make on which platform. And she said, that's not what I asked you. I asked you how you define success. And I was honestly speechless for a moment because I didn't know that answer. She pointed out that I was so busy letting other people define success for me that I hadn't taken the time to define it for myself. After sitting with it, I told her this: getting through everything I've lived through is a success because I did it. Owning my own business is a success, something I never would have imagined for myself 15 years ago. She looked at me and said, so, are you a success? And I said yes. And that's when I stopped letting numbers and likes decide my worth. I know what you're thinking. What do success and self-worth have to do with survival mode? A lot, actually. When you're stuck in survival mode, every decision you make is tied to surviving. Decisions are made under pressure. There's no space to think about what your future self might want or even need. All you can see, think about, and respond to is the urgency of here and now. And that's where I want to take us next. Out of urgency and into awareness. Out of a surviving mindset and into a thriving one. Breaking the survival script, why language matters. Let's look at survival, what we often call need, and thriving, what we might call want, through the lens of definition first. Survival is defined as the state our fact of continuing to live or exist, especially in spite of difficult conditions. Survival is continuing on in spite of our circumstances. Thriving, on the other hand, is defined as to grow strongly and vigorously, to do well, to prosper. And I don't know if you felt it, but just saying those definitions out loud feels different to me. One feels heavy, the other feels light. Next, let's look at the actual definitions of needs and wants. A need is defined as a lack of something requisite, desirable, or useful, a physiological or psychological requirement for the well-being of an organism. A want is defined as a desire for something, a sense of lack, or longing for something we'd like to have. Needs are about survival and basic well-being. Wants are about comfort, growth, and quality of life. Neither is wrong, but they speak very different languages in the body. Now that we've looked at the definitions, this is where I say it plainly. Language matters. In today's world, we use want and need interchangeably, even though they are two very different things, and they land in the body differently. Need puts pressure on the body to survive. For so many people, getting their needs met is a daily struggle. Want, on the other hand, often sounds like something we're only allowed to have once we reach a certain level. That kind of language creates fear, anxiety, and stress. And at its core, it doesn't just affect how we see our reality, it affects how we see ourselves. Right now, I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Take a few deep breaths. Let your body relax. Forget just for a moment all of your day-to-day stressors. I want you to imagine that whatever is holding you back right now doesn't exist. If it's finances, imagine that in this moment you have all the money you could ever need. If it's health, imagine that you're the healthiest you've ever been. Take another deep breath and notice where that freedom sits in your body. Do you feel lighter? Have your shoulders relaxed? Has your jaw softened? This is what happens when we give ourselves, even for a moment, permission to dream, to imagine. Continue to stay in this relaxed state. Take a few more deep breaths. Hold that vision for yourself. As you stay here, I want you to gently visualize yourself. What do you look like? Are you happier? Are you smiling? What's happening around you? Are you at home or somewhere else? What are you doing? Are you working? Are you gardening? Are you on the beach? There's no right or wrong here. This is simply you noticing what potential exists when we remove stress and pressure. Thank you for allowing me to guide you through that exercise, and here's why we did it. That brief guided meditation was meant to highlight why we need to give ourselves permission to dream and to want. Whatever image came up for you points to where pressure is showing up in your life right now. And when we recognize those pressure points, we can begin to take steps to relieve them. Practical steps to reframe. Let's bring this back to language and why it's so important that we allow ourselves to dream. And for clarity, I'm not saying that changing our language or daydreaming is going to fix every problem we have. But earlier in this episode, we talked about changing our reality, and this is where that work begins. Awareness brings clarity. Clarity brings focus. Focus creates choice, and choice is what makes change possible. When we constantly ingest the language of survival, what our bodies register is stress and anxiety. Survival language often sounds like this: I don't have a choice. I have to figure this out right now. If I don't do this, everything falls apart. I'm already behind. I just need to get through this. These land in the body as urgency, not planning. Notice how often the word need shows up in those moments. I need this to work. I need to fix this now. I need to push through. Survival language doesn't leave space for choice or response. It demands instant reaction and action. Here's where we can choose reframing, gentle meditation or dreaming, and gratitude practices to help reshape how we experience our reality. Reframing doesn't mean ignoring what's hard. It can be as simple as changing the language we use with ourselves. For example, instead of saying, I need this to work right now, we might try, I want this to work and I'm taking steps towards it. Instead of, I don't have a choice, we might say, I don't like my options, but I still have choice. Instead of, I have to push through, we might try, I can take this one step at a time. This doesn't erase real needs or real challenges, but it does shift the body out of urgency and back into response, which is where choice lives. Daily gentle meditation and visualization, like the one we did earlier, can help us reconnect with what we want. They help focus our energy on our goals without urgency or force. Even 15 minutes a day can make a difference, helping reduce stress and anxiety over time. Gentle breath work also supports the nervous system, helping the body step out of survival mode and into a calmer state. These small, daily acts of self-care help reshape how we respond to life, grounding us back into our bodies and into the present moment. Finally, we have gratitude practices. And I know, when we're in survival mode, it can feel hard to find things to be grateful for. That's why I always suggest keeping gratitude simple and accessible. Instead of saying, I have to pay these bills, try reframing it to, I get to pay these bills. That's gratitude in action. And I know this might sound old-fashioned, but even pausing to say, I'm thankful for the food I'm about to eat, can shift something internally. I'm not talking about turning it into prayer. Just noticing and naming gratitude can change the energy in the body. We often think of gratitude as a list. And if you love lists, by all means make one. But gratitude doesn't have to look like that. It can be a moment, a pause, a quiet acknowledgement. These are just a few gentle steps you can take today to begin shifting how you experience your reality. This isn't about fixing everything that feels wrong. in your world or in the world at large. It's about your approach, your response, a gentler you, a more centered, embodied you. It's time for a Tarot Truth Bomb, where Spirit speaks through the cards and I don't sugarcoat the message. Ask yourself, where in my life am I using the word need when what I'm really feeling is pressure or urgency? What story am I telling myself right now that keeps me in survival mode? Where have I been reacting instead of responding? And what language am I using in those moments? What would change if I gave myself permission to want without immediately judging it as unrealistic or irresponsible? What choice becomes available to me when I slow down and listen to my body instead of the urgency in my mind? Today's card is the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords is one of the court cards, and it represents a young person. So when a page shows up, it usually means that things are at the beginning. So we're not a knight yet, we're not a queen, we're not a king, we're a page. So when we look at this from a survival mindset, this is all about, the page doesn't speak necessarily from wisdom yet. They speak from vigilance. They're wired, reactive, and trying to stay one step ahead of the threat. So the lesson isn't silencing the page. It's to slow them down long enough to ask, is this awareness or anxiety? And the way that we get there is to ask our body. This is about responding to things from a place of survival mode. I need to know. I have to say this right. What if I miss something? This is all about the mind's vigilance and learning how to tame that down and train it to observe without defending, so that our words and our reality shift from survival to truth. Spirit said what it said. Spirit didn't stutter. Take it in, sit with it, and do what you will with it. Survival taught many of us how to endure. And sometimes in this world, endurance isn't rewarded by the outside world. Struggles happen. It's our approach to those struggles that matters. Thriving doesn't mean those struggles disappear. It does, however, ask something different: presence, choice, and permission. You don't have to change everything today. Just notice the language you've been living inside and what becomes possible when you soften it. You don't need to escape your life to thrive inside it. Sometimes the shift begins with a pause and a single word chosen with care. That's it for today's brew. If something stirred your soul, stirred your sass, or made you side-eye your life choices in the best way possible, pass it on. And don't forget to follow, rate, and share your thoughts on any of our socials. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Spirit Gumbo. In our next episode, we're diving into self-talk and negative gremlins, how we inherit certain narratives, and how many of the voices in our head aren't actually ours. Until next time, this ain't just talk. This is Spirit Gumbo with CQ.